Well, hello there. Welcome to On the Beat, the podcast that uncovers full frontal male nudity in cinema. My name is Laura, and I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Ryan.
Oh, hello.
Oh boy, is that your tone just going into this movie? Because it's like, oofed.
I mean, to be fair, it's like walking into a deep, dark void going into this film.
Yeah,
so
I get it.
We've survived it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did. I gotta be honest, it was... The build up to watching it was worse than actually watching it. So that's something, because I think I was warned so many times about how rough this movie can be.
Yeah.
And then we watched it, and I think maybe that prepared me, maybe over-prepared me for what I was going to see.
Yeah. I guess, because we're going to give the title of the film, and I think
I'll get there eventually.
I think people will be relatively quite excited to hear us talk about this film, to be fair, because it's one of those. It's kind of like, it's one of those.
It's one of the most famous dick flicks, I think, out there.
Yes.
Infamous, perhaps.
And also kind of, and it's strange, and it's the shot that we're talking about for this particular film is probably one of my favorite shots in any film.
Is it fucked up that I want a GIF of it so I could just like randomly send it to you when I'm not having a good day so you know how I feel?
I feel like well, no, if you're just sending it to me.
Yeah, just
that's
you.
Fine. Right. I do kind of feel personally that's a little bit exploitative. But yeah, if you're only sending it to me and I fully understand it, then yes, that would be fine.
I'll get on that immediately.
But maybe we should let the listening audience, I mean, they've already clicked on it. They probably already know what it is.
Yeah, I mean, the episode titles are the film titles.
And we tell them all a week in advance if they follow us properly. Because
yeah,
if you don't, then that's your fault.
Yeah, well, that's one more thing that you can add to your to-do list today, everybody. The film we are going to discuss today is the 1992 neo-noir, I don't want to call it a crime, neo-noir drama.
I'd say it's
crime drama.
Has crime in it. There's crime. There's like one of the pivotal moments in the movie is horrific crime.
Bad Lieutenant.
Yeah.
Bad Lieutenant. Starring Harvey Keitel and directed by Abel Ferrara.
Yep. Yeah. Okay, so
take it away, Rye.
Yeah, we can talk a little bit about Abel. I do like Abel's stuff. I do like Abel Ferrara's stuff. I've probably mentioned Abel Ferrara in one of the other episodes. I think we were talking about Home Improvement.
Oh God.
And
why does that come up so much?
I don't know. It's kind of like, I don't want to say like the 6 degrees of Home Improvement, but you were talking about Taylor Thomas or whatever his name is.
Jonathan Taylor Thomas, JTT.
Yeah, and obviously, like, you don't really ever want to get into a massive conversation about Tim Allen. Well, certainly, if we ever wanted to ever discuss his books, Tim Allen's books,
we don't do books on this podcast,
are eye-opening. Well,
no.
I think one of them's called like never stand next to a naked man or something like that. I think it's what it's called. We were talking about using power drills and stuff like that.
Oh,
and how it makes you feel. And you didn't believe me. There's a film out there called Driller
Killer. Yeah, and that actually was showing recently at the local cinema, and I didn't go watch it, but then it just all came around that this is real. This is a real thing.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yes. So 100% it is real, and it was directed by Abel Ferrara. Now, technically, Driller Killer is, let's say, his second debut as a director.
I thought it was his first, but you would know better than me.
Well, the thing is like, he directs a movie called The 9 Lives of Wet Pussy, and it's a porno, but he directs it under a pseudonym. I think the pseudonym is Jimmy Boy L. So there's a line, and I got this from Wikipedia, whether or not it's true or not, but 100% this film exists. It's a 70-minute porno. Also stars his then girlfriend at the time, and one of his quotes is saying, "It's bad enough paying a guy $200 to fuck your girlfriend, then he can't get it up." So there's actually a scene where Abel Ferrara has sex with his then girlfriend on camera in the movie.
Whoa.
Yeah, this man has lived a life. So, Let's just say, like, he's more known for, let's say, provocative, somewhat controversial, neo-noir, gritty urban, like, set films.
Yeah.
Yeah, in a slight way, I would say he reminds me a bit of, like, a Kinji Fukasaku and his, like, Yakuza movies, and then I kind of go even further into that in terms of, like, the level of the tone. I think about kind of Takeshi Miike's slightly more earlier stuff, like middle stuff. I mean, that guy's made like probably like fucking over 150 films. So let's just say once he gets into the double digits, that kind of period of his filmmaking. But yeah, I would say that's what we know Abel Ferrara for. So in terms of like his filmography, he made a bunch of shorts. Driller Killer comes out in 1979. 81 is a movie called Miss 45, which I'm still yet to see, but I think it's pretty much like you would recognize it if you kind of saw it, because it's the woman dressed as a nun. I think she was like abused or attacked as a youngster, and then she seeks out revenge for.
Right. And those are the type of movies, if it just straight up is like rape, revenge, I'm usually not interested. I don't want to watch them. And I shy away. I just don't want to deal with that in my day-to-day life.
Yeah, I guess maybe because as I've gotten older, like you start to be a little bit more aware of like where your morality stands and stuff like that. Because I think as a young filmmaker, I was probably more interested in slightly more controversial and like extreme forms of storytelling, I suppose, like for a turn. And I mean, I don't know, you've read some of my stuff and things and the things I like to write and things, and I guess
yes,
and I guess I'm like, I think this is actually pretty good, and it's like, this is fucking horrible.
I have said that to you before, yeah.
Yeah, you've said certain things, but we're all aiming for our own things in life. And to figure out, like, to finish up the filmography aspects of it, in 84 he makes Fear City, which we saw recently. The Tom Berenger, Melanie Griffith movie. It's got Billy D. Williams in it as well. Yeah, that movie's got that fantastic fight scene at the end of it. He just like beats the shit out the kung fu murderer.
Yes, yeah. And I think that movie is on one of the streamings. So if anyone wants to watch it,
we watched it on Prime.
I think it is on Prime.
It's well worth.
Has an incredible cover.
Yeah, it's well worth watching. I think
that's also on Crackle. Isn't it? Whatever,
watched,
it doesn't matter.
Well, the thing is, like, this was completely unrelated, but we watched another movie called Strip to Kill, which is effectively the exact same plot.
Yeah, it is.
Of Fear City. Because if nobody knows, like, Fear City was a story about Tom Berenger, can't remember his sidekick, but basically they have an agency. They look after strippers who work in the strip clubs in New York. And for whatever reason, there's a dude going around attacking and murdering the strippers, and basically just putting the fear into them, pretty much. But
yeah.
Strip to Kill is pretty much the exact same story. So after Fear City, he makes The Gladiator, he makes Crime Story, he makes another film called China Girl, another film called The Loner, and another film called Cat Chaser. A lot of these are kind of made for TV or like TV show pilots that are screening only on TV.
Okay.
But in 1990, his next feature film effort is one of my personal favorites, which is King of New York, the Christopher Walken movie. I mean, there's a lot of people in that movie. I think it's like Wesley Snipes is in that movie, David Caruso's in that fucking movie. It's very much a kind of gangsters versus cops sort of foray. And it's a gritty crime drama, and we all know how much I like those.
You sure do.
Yes.
And I like that movie as well. I saw that when I worked at Hollywood Video. I kind of went through the entire drama section and just watched as many crime and mob type of films that I could, and went through all of them.
Yeah.
So I saw that back in the day.
Remember picking up the special edition DVD of that movie. That movie's real good.
I just didn't, you don't expect Christopher Walken on the front of something like that for some reason.
I would wholeheartedly expect him on the front of something like that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Because not only that, Christopher Walken also is in his other film, The Funeral. And that is primarily probably one of the reasons why Christopher Walken plays the character he plays in True Romance.
I was about to say that.
Tony Scott, so
that works for me.
Yeah.
Because he's very scary.
He's got a presence about him. So after King of New York, we then have, in 92, Bad Lieutenant by Harvey Keitel.
Here we go.
What is the film about? What is the synopsis?
The letterboxed synopsis is, while investigating a young nun's rape, a corrupt New York City police detective with a serious drug and gambling addiction tries to change his ways and find forgiveness.
Okay.
That works for me, actually.
Yeah, that's 100% spot on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to talk about particular scenes and stuff. I mean, if like you hear that synopsis, that is effectively what...
That's the beginning, the middle, and the end of this
happens.
film.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, like the gambling aspect, because it's between like the playoffs with the Mets and the Dodgers, like this 7-game playoff that he's betting money on.
It's the World Series, right?
It's the World Series, yeah. So this is probably one of the only things other than the crime with the nun being raped is the only thing that pushes the elements of the story forward, or at least it gives us this sense of something's happened and something continues to happen, and here's the conclusion to these two instances.
Right. So like at least the gambling thing and the World Series is escalating.
It drives it forward effectively.
Yeah.
Because everything else, the rest of the film is a collection of scenes and moments that highlight how fucking horrible either he is as a person or the world that he is inhabiting and how fucking hellish it is.
Is it weird that there's part of me that wants to say he's not really that terrible?
No, because I feel like, at least by its conclusion, or at least his character arc, let's say, is that he does gain like a level of redemption.
Yeah.
It just really depends like how you personally feel if he deserves any level of redemption. You know what I mean?
Well, it's also that kind of Christian Catholic sense of forgiveness in religion where you can be a fuck up and be a horrible person, a horrible piece of shit, and do horrible things to yourself and others for your entire life. And as long as you show remorse,
you can atone on your deathbed if you need to.
Absolutely. Which is essentially what happens, and what happens with the criminals in this film, in a way.
Yeah, but the problem is like it's your reward for bad behavior it's something that just I'll never be able to wrap my fucking head around.
Oh yeah, but that's religion.
Yeah, but it's his dissension, like his escalation, his I guess like him just like he's just like
his choices.
His choice, like bulldozing through fucking life. Like it is fascinating.
Yeah.
Like where it goes.
Oh, I can give you the tagline as well, which is kind of obvious.
Fuck yeah.
Gambler, thief, junkie, killer, cop.
Yeah, I like that tagline. Yeah.
Is he a killer? He didn't kill anybody.
No.
Just himself, in a way.
Yeah. They could have cut that out because it's maybe one word.
Gambler, thief, junkie, cop.
Cop. Yeah.
Yeah, it probably would have sounded better.
I would say like Bad Lieutenant is probably his best known, but I wouldn't say that Bad Lieutenant is his best film.
Yeah, it's certainly quite shocking, or it can be, and probably certainly was to audiences back in 1992.
Yeah.
You know, but I think he tried to mitigate the shock based on the poster. Because the original poster is Harvey Keitel full-blown naked with the words Bad Lieutenant covering the whole thing, you know, and his privates are in shadow. Yeah. But I mean, you've seen updated photos and cover art for Bad Lieutenant, which makes it look like a cop procedural, which it is certainly not.
It is not, no. It's very far from it.
And it's weird that they're trying to get like a different kind of audience for this movie based on the cover art. So...
Well, the thing is like, it's kind of, I wouldn't say it's genreless, but it kind of skates very fine lines between genres. It's definitely a drama.
Yeah.
The thing is like it falls under the crime arena purely on the basis that we're focused very much on a lieutenant and crimes start happening. That's not primarily the focus, because what Bad Lieutenant effectively is, because Harvey Keitel's character doesn't have a name, he's just referred to as the lieutenant. It's just a character study. It's a meditation on guilt for the most part.
Guilt, redemption, attempted redemption. I mean, this is a basically 10 days of the end of someone's life.
Yeah, pretty much.
Ish.
Yeah,
10
pretty
days
much.
ish.
Yeah, and like he's I mean, it's painfully obvious, like this spiral that he's been traveling down has been going on far, far longer, probably years for the most part, than the short amount of time that we see him depicted in the film. So,
I mean, we get to see a full-on rock bottom.
yeah, like that's like the main thing, and we'll talk about tone and things regarding this film, but like there's very few films that I feel like genuinely encapsulate that tone, or at least that look of utter desolation.
Yeah.
And I fucking love it.
It drips with despair.
Yeah. Like
it really does.
It's kind of like if you think about, you know, the depictions of hell and like what hell would be like and things, because it's an unfathomable concept.
Right.
But to believe in hell, you also have to believe in heaven, and then there's some level of like, you know, believing in a higher power and all this sort of crap, which I don't really do.
Well, he does.
You know?
He's
Well,
Catholic.
He does. I'm thinking about myself, right?
Okay.
And I'm thinking about like the depictions in the film and things. And if you ever let your mind kind of wander, I kind of feel like when Keitel's character is just traveling deeper and darker into these places, that I'm like, that's kind of what like an endless stairwell.
He's digging his own grave every
Yeah.
single day. He digs a little bit deeper, and it's almost like he wants to get to the bottom. He wants it to end.
Yes.
He's so miserable, and
Yeah.
he is just piling on trouble after trouble. You know, he just wants it to be over.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, Harvey Keitel plays the lieutenant. Who else is in this movie?
I wrote them down, but we didn't really meet anybody else other than Zoe.
No.
Who's played by Zoe Lund, who's also I have some notes about her.
Well, she's the main star of Miss 45.
She is indeed.
Yes.
And she also co-wrote the screenplay of this film.
Oh, shit.
Okay. And Frankie Thorne plays the nun. That's the only people I was going to bring up, but let me tell you about Zoe.
There are some there's some interesting side characters of like the cops, relatively recognizable names. They don't have really any part in what's happening here.
Victor Argo plays one of the cops, and I know
Yes.
that he's a frequent actor in Abel's films.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
and Paul Calderon.
Yeah.
But I don't. Yeah.
But
for the sake of this
little
film,
to no consequence
it
or
is
part in the
a
movie.
full-on Harvey train
Right.
tooting through this movie.
Yes.
No one else really gets much screen time.
Next up, cocaine.
Cocaine City. Oh, it's like Crack City.
I mean,
Because there is a full-on crack epidemic happening in New York at this time.
we're gonna be going through a lot of like, not really kind of the things, but like it all kind of falls into the controversial aspects of this film, like very specifically. It's a lot of the drug use. So
Speaking of drug use, let me tell you about Zoe Lund.
oh,
So she is credited as a co-writer of the screenplay with Abel Ferrara.
yeah,
But she also said that she wrote the screenplay alone, and that Abel had very little to do with it and was not very involved.
okay,
And she also said that she co-directed several scenes. She
Okay.
said that Ferrara didn't contribute much to the screenplay at all.
okay,
She's got a bit of an anger inside of her for whatever reason.
okay. Thing is, like, let's be perfectly honest, Abel Ferrara's already kind of cut his treads, like, with quite a few films. So I've got, like, if he had every single hand he had to make in King of New York, like, she can say what the fuck she wants, really.
Well, I didn't know this, but she's basically an unapologetic heroin addict, or was, because she died.
Oh, that's a shame.
She died from heart failure at the age of 37.
I can only... Well, it's 1 year off us.
I know.
I mean, I can only assume that the drug scenes in Bad Lieutenant are all 100% real.
Well...
Certainly on her end.
Well, they did actually shoot up, but it was a saline solution. Same that they did in Trainspotting. Same type of thing. They did physically use a needle. She's like, we could have used a retractable needle, but we wanted it to be real and long and arduous and difficult to watch. So that's why they just held on those shots for so long.
That's
and
also,
you see that needle going in and you're like, Jesus
That's
Christ.
also the main issue I feel like the film has with the ratings board, is because of how... I think we'll get into the style, but let's just continue onward.
Well, Zoe Lewand had an extended relationship with cocaine for a really long time. And when she had moved to Paris, she kind of got off the brown and back into the white, but it was her heart failed because of extended cocaine use in her life. But she was just adamantly in love with heroin and didn't give a shit. She constantly was advocating for drug rights in the States for recreational use. But I mean, no one's going to say, yeah, we definitely should legalize heroin. Anyway, Abel Ferrara had been taking drugs, at least since he was a teenager. Mm-hmm. And he was taking drugs all throughout the filming of this movie.
Okay.
And most of his films. He was on drugs for most of his films.
To be fair, he's not the first prominent film director to have known to have taken drugs. I mean, certainly if the 70s is anything to go by, everyone who was making films back then had some level of habit.
Old Martin Scorsese.
Scorsese is probably the most famous one.
The poster child for cocaine use.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, we all know what happened there. I mean, he got clean and he made Raging Bull, you know. But I would also kind of point out that, like, probably the more prominent one would be Sam Peckinpah, and there's loads of fucking stories of his like, he smoked weed a lot. He used to drink on set. He used to have a gun. He used to brandish a gun on set.
Who is this?
Sam Peckinpah.
What is his? Tell me what has he done? What would I know from him?
Well, I mean, most notably, he made The Wild Bunch.
I haven't seen that. Is that a Western?
Yeah. But he made like hyper violent movies. I mean, he made Cross of Iron. He made Convoy.
Nope.
He made Convoy's on streaming.
That's okay.
It's a good movie.
Is that also in the desert?
No, it's Chris Christopherson in a semi traveling across the island. He's on the Convoy thing.
Convoy.
Yeah, there you go. It's got its own fucking song. He wrote the
song. Is that from that movie?
Fuck yeah, that's from that movie. Chris Christopherson wrote the song and did the song for Convoy.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll watch that.
He made a movie called Bring Me the Head of Michaela Estrada.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the one where
maybe
because they rip that moment. Quentin Tarantino rips he's like talking to the head that's inside the car, like in the box. And he's like driving on the car. Yeah. Like Tarantino just stole that from Kill Bill. Or I think it was Kill Bill. One of his other shit films.
Maybe Convoy will be my second favorite semi-truck movie.
Yeah. I mean,
after Over the Top.
He made that. He did that Billy the Kid movie as well.
Okay, I haven't seen it.
He's more known for making westerns, but he had prominent problems with like alcohol and drugs. He was a live wire. He was mental. Absolutely fucking mental.
Other than you, I only have one other friend that really likes westerns, and maybe she'll be into The Wild Bunch.
That's fine. I mean, I like all films. That's the difference. You know, you're just like, you got your blinkers on, and you're just like,
there's too much sand.
I like the penis only. And romantic comedies and all the other sort of trash that I can't really sit through.
Wow. You're just like calling me out. That's not true.
You called me out just earlier. And you're
because you like desert films.
What's wrong with a good desert film?
It's just too sandy.
Do you have a problem with The Proposition? That movie's a desert movie.
That's got Guy Pearce in it?
Guy Pearce and Ray Winston, yeah.
Ooh, I've seen that.
It's a good fucking movie.
It's fine, but I don't want to watch it again.
Music by Nick Cave. What, do you not like Dune?
Yeah.
Right, well, there you go then. So you do like desert movies. Anyway, you like The Mummy. The Mummy's like one of your favorite films ever.
I do love The Mummy.
What are you talking about?
Mummy's so good.
We need to get back on. So we need to get back on track. So we've established the key players.
Oh, hold on.
Oh wait, sorry.
I didn't even finish my quote from
fuck.
Ferrara. He said about this film, the director of that film needed to be using the director and the writer, not the actors. He said it in that way. Just it's
So
kind of
for-
awkward.
Oh, so
for Bad Lieutenant.
Lieutenant.
So the writer, which was Zoe, who was a lover of heroin, and Abel. So they were
Okay.
both using, and they said that Keitel was not using. But I think Keitel had been into drugs in the past.
Well, again, like
This was kind of like almost like a cathartic thing for him.
Again, like this was more. It's like, you know, he's a mainstay of Scorsese's movies and stuff like that. Keitel, like, I mean, it's again, like, I see anybody who survived the 70s kind of coming in and still making movies. They're coming out with a fair amount of baggage. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't feel like you can get yourself into the system without kind of coming out with some level of like fuck-uppery kind of happening.
Well, and Keitel, and I don't think he was married to, but he was in a really long-term relationship with Lorraine Bracco. And they had just got Lorraine Bracco.
No idea who she is.
Karen.
Oh, got you.
Goodfellas.
Yeah.
She's in a million things. She's in your favorite movie, Hackers. So he had been going through a long kind of tough breakup with her. And so during this movie, so maybe that kind of helped him put it all out on the line.
Okay.
Because this is a very intense.
He exposes himself in more ways than one in this movie.
In every single way.
Yeah.
It's rough. Anyway.
It's kind of, yeah.
Oif.
Yeah. I guess, like, how you feel about Harvey Keitel's performance in this movie really kind of dictates whether or not you like this movie, I feel.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because he is primarily, he's the only reason to be watching this film for the most part.
Yeah.
And if you can get past some of the stomach churning stuff he does in the film, then I think it's perfectly, I think it's perfectly balanced in it. And I think you would, let's say inadvertent quote, like, enjoy it, let's say.
There's so many things in this movie that will make you, or at least made me uncomfortable, that I ended up laughing. Because it's so ridiculous. And it's so awful.
Yeah.
And it's the only way to make myself feel comfortable is to just laugh about it.
That's why, I mean, this was kind of like this choice for this film. We were going to have to cover it. But I mean, I pre-warned you beforehand because you'd never seen it before.
Yeah, I cannot believe I haven't seen this movie. And I mean, I've obviously seen the Nicolas Cage Bad Lieutenant, Port of Call, New Orleans.
Yeah. It's a very different beast.
No, it has nothing to do with this.
Yeah,
but
it's a very different
But
thing.
I saw that movie, and I thought I'd seen this movie. You know, there's images of this movie that are so vivid and that kind of stick with you. Whether or not you've actually seen it, you would recognize these shots. And I haven't seen it until recently.
I would agree with you in that regard, like, because I think we're not really going to talk too much about the plot because there isn't too much of one. It's kind of more, we're going to be examining things that you guys have probably, if you've seen the movie, like, immediately stick out in your head, like particular scenes. But it's kind of more of a
Best bits.
Yeah, I guess it's going to be more of an examination of, like, its tone and, like, what it's trying to do.
Do you remember in the beginning of the movie, very beginning of the movie, where he picks up his kids because they forgot the bus, or they missed the bus to school?
Well, yeah, they're at home and he basically has to drive them to school.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the kids are in the car, they're listening to the baseball game.
Mm-hmm.
He is yelling at his kids, basically telling the kids to, like, disregard their aunt because she's in the bathroom for too long, like, showing a blatant disregard for other people and women especially.
Yeah.
And then when he drops him off at school, he's just doing bumps of coke.
Yeah.
He doesn't even move. You can see, like, the rosary beads hanging from his rearview mirror.
Yeah.
It's like the shadow of the crucifix on his face as he's just doing blow in his car.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it was really funny.
Yeah.
Like, it really set off the movie in a strange way for me. Because
the
I
thing is,
loved
like,
that part. It was hilarious.
if there's ever if there's ever a dull moment in the movie, he's usually just like necking into some cocaine.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's just like getting it done. You know what I mean?
Because the first 20 minutes of this movie are quite the roller coaster. It's really, and we were talking about this last night, it's so front loaded with chaos. Utter chaos.
All of the things that you remember, or at least what characterizes Bad Lieutenant as a movie, is all within the first, say, 20 or 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So what happens after that 30 minutes, though, is... I wouldn't say, like, it becomes a victim of its length or anything like that, but because all the stuff is so front-loaded, you're expecting things to either escalate or become something else in the second half of the movie. But really kind of what they establish is a kind of level of status quo where...
Like slower, kind of darker, more methodical, and more sad.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, because, again, this isn't really a film with an elaborate story. It's a character study.
Front-loaded into the beginning of the film is... what I think is the best part of the movie.
What's
and
that?
this is the dick scene.
Oh, right. Okay.
At 11 minutes and 48 seconds. So right in the beginning of the movie, we're just getting to know this character, and then you get to know pretty much everything you need to know about him from one shot. From one single shot, I think you kind of get to know him. Mm-hmm. Like...
the dick shot that we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
Because we're into the dick scene. Because we've already like established like he's betting on the World Series. He's like not very nice to these kids. He's not very nice about like people in general. He goes to a crime scene. He's very kind of...
he seems fairly
moot,
professional-ish. Like he's very kind of muted.
He seems like there seems to be like a respect for him. I think he's been on the job for such a long fucking time that like, and this is the thing. And I mean, I guess like I wrote scenes like this for when I was doing the cop show, is that the crime is one thing, like dealing with the crime and dealing with that because that's your job. You can quite easily separate yourself from that situation to just kind of talk about your normal life. I mean, I remember writing a scene for, and it's all true. You write a scene. There was the couple of coppers were waiting for the mortuary truck to come over to pick the body up in this room, and they're just sitting in the room talking about what they did the day before in full view of a dead body that's just lying on a bed.
Yeah.
You know, like it's just something that you normalize yourself to in everyday daily situations. So
it's like disassociating from the horror.
Yeah. So I mean, for the most part, he's dealing with, I mean, there's just murders of people getting killed in cars, and that seems to happen quite a few times within the course of the movie.
That's true.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that.
It's a foreshadowing to what happens.
Yeah, those two girls were murdered in the car.
Yes. So those two girls were murdered in the car.
That's interesting.
And then it kind of happens again, and that's when that's that other scene where he was like, stash those drugs, but he dropped them.
That was very funny.
Yes.
That cracked me up. Yeah, it was like a car was pulled over. Was there a dead body in that car?
Potentially.
And he's just digging through the car looking for drugs.
I think it's also a car. It was a car that I think he noticed when he was on the phone making bets. Because there was that dude who was going from car to car, opening up bonnets and things like that, and like taking stuff out of the bonnet, putting stuff in the car. Either way.
Well, he found a gigantic bag of cocaine in this car that was part of a crime scene. And he grabs it and really, not elegantly, shoves it into the front of his coat. Then he steps out of the back seat of the car and drops the coke on the floor. Looks around. The cops are looking at him. The detectives are looking at him. He goes, "Put it into evidence."
Yeah.
Oh, I laughed so hard. Yeah. Oh, that was so funny. I'm like, you fucking idiot. He's probably high as hell. When is he sober?
No, in every scene he's doing something.
Yeah.
He's doing something.
He's just like, ooh.
Yeah.
This big old bag.
So,
but let's get back to the dick scene.
Yeah. Wow,
Digress.
that was a
Sorry.
So the scene kind of starts. It starts with a couple that we don't know.
A couple of ladies.
I think it's a dude and a lady.
Really?
Yeah, I think it's a dude and a lady.
Cool. All right.
Yeah, it's kind of like an androgynous man, I think, is the other lady that you think it is.
I love that.
Yeah. So they're on the bed. They're kind of doing things to each other. I'm not going to go any
Sexy
dance.
dance.
They're doing sexy stuff. And he's just sitting in a chair with like a bottle of vodka.
He has a bottle of vodka in his right hand and a glass in his left hand.
Mm-hmm.
And he pours the vodka into the cup and he's kind of reclined in this chair.
Yeah.
Leans back, takes a little glance at the cup, then just pours the vodka into his mouth.
Yeah.
So he's chugging the vodka out of the bottle while holding the cup of vodka.
Yeah.
And then he just spills it all over his face.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man. Topless. He's not wearing a shirt.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
Because I'm trying to remember the order.
It's probably not supposed to be funny.
I'm trying to remember what... To me, like, you were the only one laughing. I mean... Because you're watching it and you're just like, holy fuck. So I'm trying to remember, like, the order of the shots as well. But
I do remember. So after that, I think, is when they dance.
The hugging, slow dance thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, it's like, oh... See, I love it. Absolutely love it.
The woman's wearing saggy underwear, which you know that I hate. Very saggy white underwear, but she's topless.
You saw the stick of the absolute state of the place they're living in, though.
Yeah, it was awful.
Like, oh, it was fucking grim.
I just don't like saggy underwear. It makes me
grim.
very uncomfortable. But
it's like the house itself has a permanent vignette. Like, it's so dark in some of the corners. So unbelievably dark.
Yeah, but they're having a weird slow dance, and the androgynous human, whoever they are, comes over and dances with them.
Yeah.
And they're kind of doing a slow dance.
Mm-hmm.
And from what I remember right after that is the dick shot.
Yeah, it's probably like it's my favorite film. It's my favorite like shot in this film. But it's maybe like one of my favorite shots in any film. Like it's so good. So good. And I'm not watching it and looking at it and being like, it's incredibly fucked up, but it's just incredibly exposing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we talk about penises in film, penises in cinema, and how they usually will be there to reflect something happening within the character, or happening to the character. So we have in 28 Days Later, Cillian Murphy laying there, and it's a vulnerability thing. And I think the same thing is happening here, where he's just shedding everything that he has and just exposing himself fully, and he's completely vulnerable, and he's completely miserable. And it is...
Well, there's like a mirror behind him. His arms are outstretched. He's got a cross necklace like around his neck. And he's effectively sobbing.
Yeah.
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 Because like that shot reminds me of the opening of Apocalypse Now. When Martin Sheen is drinking in that hotel room and he goes mental and he punches the mirror.
Okay.
Because that whole scene's complete. Like Martin Sheen's actually drunk. They were in that room for like 12 hours.
Oh.
And he punches the mirror, cuts his hand, he rolls over. He's naked. I don't know if we see his dick or anything in Apocalypse Now, but he's naked and he just starts crying. His hands like cut and bleeding, blood everywhere.
Wow.
And I look at that and I'm like, okay, that's fine. I look at Bad Lieutenant and I'm like, that's better. Like it's like if you didn't know what you were in for, that shot 100% tells you what you're in for. It's like if you can't take this level of, say, character actor vulnerability.
Yeah.
Because if you can't take that, then there are some things that are gonna happen.
Yeah.
Where you're like, okay, maybe this isn't for me. Like maybe I should just stop watching.
Yeah, whittling out the ones that can't take it.
Yeah, because like I kind of like I think about, you know, because I'm going to talk about a little bit about extreme cinema, and just kind of how far films can sometimes go to get and elicit responses out of people. Because certainly, I think I might have mentioned this before, but certainly George Lucas probably said it best, where he's like, if you ever want to get an emotional response out of an audience, just chuck a bunch of kittens and puppies into a bag and then beat the bag. That's how you.
Oh my god.
That's how you elicit an emotional response out of your audience. He's like, it's not hard.
So is Keitel like our bag of kittens and puppies?
I mean,
we're just beating him up.
I mean, it's the sort of behavior that in a role that just kind of like it starts to blur the lines between you're not just playing a part, like how much of yourself is put into a role.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's kind of how far do you take a moment like that, and as yourself as a filmmaker, when do you know when to say cut? Like, when do you know when enough is enough? Like, how far do you take it?
Well, that's what they wanted to do with this particular film.
I guess. I mean, I kind of say it more in general.
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of like where does the practice, say, like, outweigh the performance? Like, how far do you go? It's always something that's always going to fascinate me from talking from filmmaker to filmmaker to filmmaker.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why does Stanley Kubrick need to take 127 shots of Jack Nicholson walking up a set of stairs towards, Shelley Duvall? Like, why does he need to do that?
And why does William Friedkin go, all right, I'm good, one take.
Yeah.
We don't want to do it again?
Yeah.
Nope. Moving on.
And why do they both work?
Yeah, why are they both?
Yeah. So, like,
wonderful?
I like this. I like from, say, you go from that extreme to this other extreme. Like, where does the practice come back in from when the performance, you feel like the performance is there? So I feel like this is why I like this shot, and this is why I like where this goes, and it's why I'm like, I talk about, like, Apocalypse Now in that moment with Martin Sheen, and then I talk about this.
Right.
And I just feel like this, for me personally, it nails it, and it requires a level of analysis, and this is kind of one of the reasons why I feel like this is one of the films and one of the moments where I feel like this podcast is totally deserving of its existence, is because of moments just like this, because it wholeheartedly convinces you that the only way that we fully understand what's happening to this character that Keitel is portraying,
right,
is that he has to do this in this frame this way. I
wholeheartedly agree with you.
Yeah.
You've heard me argue about those torso mid shots and how you're not, you kind of feel like you're missing out on something, and that would ruin this movie if you had kind of like a mid shot torso. You know what I mean? Of him just crying and sobbing and swinging back and forth naked, and you need everything. You need the shot that it has, because the shot that you get is perfect.
I've jumped from film to film to film being like, justify why you're putting a dick in it.
All right.
Right? And sometimes I agree with it, and other times I don't, right? Let's just put it that way. But
I always agree with it.
I know, but in this instance, like, the amount of impact you get from seeing this full visage is fully justified, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because he can't justify the things that he does later on in the movie if we don't have, like, this level of like, bare naked like, character analysis.
I feel like it would all be a lot more cruel and less sad.
Yeah.
And
I would agree.
It would look just villainous.
Yeah.
Rather than desperate,
mm-hmm.
which it still is villainous and horrible.
Yeah.
But yeah, this kind of gives you what you need to understand him. Or to understand where he's at, maybe
mm-hmm.
is more appropriate.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's the poster of the film. Is that shot, that raw...
I mean, there's a reason why.
Yeah.
It's it's one of the reasons why. I mean, we're looking at just getting the poster for the Office Space. You know
I know.
What I mean?
I do want it.
And I'm like, yeah, fuck yeah. Like, why don't we have that already?
Yeah, maybe next time we do a wee beat.
Yeah.
So. There's really one other scene in particular that jumps out to me as being memorable and perhaps seared into my brain. Is the scene where he walks up. There's two young girls in a car. Car is parked, and he asks them for their license and registration, which they do not have. And it's kind of a funny, like, oh, haha, yeah, sorry, we don't have it. And then he keeps questioning them, and he becomes more and more, not angry, but more, like, tougher every single time he asks them a question, and more frightening to me. And, oh, you don't have your license, why not? Oh, is this even your car? And they're just joking around going like, hey, man,
This is like the longest scene in the entire film.
Yeah.
As well. And certainly you can feel it as it continues and it escalates. You kind of already have seen Keitel do some questionable things.
Absolutely, every scene.
He's let a couple of kids go from a robbery. He's pocketed the money himself. He's let himself to some of the shopkeepers' belongings.
I mean, we've seen him shoot at, or no, he freebased some heroin. He's
freebasing, yeah.
Taking drugs, selling evidence drugs to drug dealers.
Yes.
So, yes. I mean, he's...
questionable things are happening.
Several.
Here. Yeah, without any sort of level of, like, either purpose or kind of level of recourse. It's kind of almost as if, like, this is just the way the system is.
It's like opportunistic on his part.
Yeah.
Like anytime he finds an opportunity to do something that I don't know, I don't want to say benefits him necessarily,
well, the thing is,
but
like,
it's
his motivations and, like, the things that motivate him is, like, you can't really put it down to simple things like he likes to have sex, so that's why he's doing it. He likes to make money because that's why he's doing it. It's kind of all kind of predicated upon, like, how much darker can this character go and how more fucked up can it get, you know what I mean?
Almost like he's testing the limits of how deep and dark he can get before it does bottom out, which is what I think he's doing. Maybe he is just testing the limits. Is there a God? Where is my redemption? Where does my sin end or begin? And because he's constantly struggling with, like, his faith, because that's a huge part of this film as well. It happens later in the movie where he's yelling at a vision of Jesus, a crucified Jesus, screaming, where are you, where were you, where were you?
That's another really cool shot in the movie as well,
so
because, like, he spends a long time, like, certainly I think when he has, like, moments of clarity where he's, like, he realizes either what he's done or what he's doing, it's like, the classic Harvey Keitel pain scream.
Oh my god. That's another time where I started laughing.
Because there is, like, I mean, I know he does it in other films because Reservoir Dogs is also...
Do you think there's a supercut somewhere, maybe on YouTube?
Of Harvey Keitel's pain screams?
Yeah.
Probably.
Okay.
Probably.
Well,
but, like, when he gets super upset in Reservoir Dogs, I think it's when Tim Roth tells him that he's an undercover cop. He does that. He does the exact same thing. So it's a Harvey Keitel thing. That's he's got that in the gamut. But I would say, and I mean, I think you guys should watch the movie. I would say the story, or at least the plot, or, like, his character changes is when the nun is raped, and I don't know if he's so much entrusted with the case, but it's not so much that, like, we ever at any point see him solving crimes. He's committing more crimes than he's solving, let's put that way.
Yeah.
But, like, when the nun gets raped, it's such a shockwave through the community. Because, again, I guess, like, my level of understanding with that idea, like, is that, as a family, you go to church, you have your pastor, you've got your confessional and things. Something like that, something horribly and tragic like that happens, it's like happening on your doorstep.
Well, and they're also just, what I would consider to be a protected entity. Your priests, well, whatever about the priests, fuck that. But your nuns are a protected, just even people who aren't religious can't imagine, why would someone want to hurt a nun? Why would someone want to hurt something so pure?
Yeah, they've done nothing wrong. Yeah,
you
they've
know,
done nothing
and they're
wrong.
only there to help other people.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's quite the scandal, quite the horror.
Yeah, and it is grounded in real situations that have happened in the time as well. So
yeah, that happened in Spanish Harlem in New York
Yeah.
a few years before they filmed
So,
this movie.
you know.
So yeah, it's unfathomable.
Yeah.
Absolutely disgusting.
But yeah, I mean, we didn't finish talking about that memorable scene either.
Oh right.
Yeah.
Okay. He has the underage girls. They're kind of fairly jovial about the situation. Apparently they had taken their father's car.
Taking their father's car, they
From
haven't got
Jersey.
a license. They're young,
They're
they're underage. And to kind of truncate it a little bit,
Underage.
Harvey Keitel basically asks them what they would do to get away with this, and effectively what happens.
I do something for you, you have to do something for me.
Yeah, effectively Harvey
Which
Keitel
is when my jaw drops.
Yeah.
You were watching me while we were watching the scene, and my
Yeah.
mouth is agape going, like, how bad is this going to be?
Oh yeah, it gets really bad. I mean,
I hate to say it could have been worse,
Yeah.
but let's say this happened to someone in real life.
yeah,
Traumatized forever. No, that's what, when you were talking about how cops or firefighters and people in films that have those jobs, you know, they tend to just be their jobs and that's all they are. And when you grow up, at least when I was growing up, it is ingrained within you to trust the police and trust your authority figures. And if you're in trouble, call the police. If you see a police officer, like, you can trust them, they can take you home.
Yeah.
And imagine for these girls who are in this car and they have this police officer and they think that they're safe. And that's the last thing that they
Yeah.
are. And he's
Yeah.
sexualizing these very young girls. And it is hideous.
Well, it ends with him masturbating on their car door.
He has the one girl bend over and show him her ass.
I wasn't going to get too
I'm
graphic
going to
with
tell.
it all.
I'm going to say it.
Yeah.
And then he has a girl kind of like replicate what her mouth would look like if she was given a blowjob. It's so horrible. And then
Yeah.
he's just beating it on the side of the car, saying horrible things to this probably 15-year-old girl. And that's another scene where I started laughing because I was so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
That was a very shocking scene.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, his sweaty face, it was nightmarish.
Yeah, and then he just walks off.
Just zips up and walks away.
Walks away, yeah. It's like, oh.
These poor girls, and that scene goes on forever.
Yeah, it's a very long scene.
Very, very
long
long
scene.
I mean, for me, the only other scene that I really wanted to touch on was when he ends up going to speak to the nun who was raped and is unhinged. He looks horrible. His hair is a mess. He's very wet, very sweaty. And he just and he's so tired, and he just tries to get on the ground to kneel next to her in front of
There's also that moment where he goes to the church the night before. He ends up probably sleeping there, and the next thing is like the crime scene's there, and they're like investigating, and he just wakes up, and he comes out from one of the pews that he was sleeping behind, and it's like, all right, back to work.
I don't even remember that.
Yeah, no, that's yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah. But
Wow.
I guess he's as a character in conflict, he's trying to figure out why this nun just will not name the boys who assaulted her.
She knows who they are, knows what they look like. She knows them.
Because they're part of the community, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
They live across the street.
so the community even know, the community know who the fuck they are. So it's not so much a case of like they're not able to arrest them. It's more that like the nun, for better or worse, her faith is preventing her from taking action on it.
She has forgiven them, therefore she won't
Yeah.
press charges.
Pretty much, yeah.
And I think that I feel like isn't there a
Well,
point
Harvey
where
Keitel won't stand for it.
No. I think she was said, I feel like at one point in the movie she said that she felt bad because she couldn't help them. Like, there's, they were doing this horrible thing, and even though she forgives them, she feels like she committed a sin for not helping them.
Yeah.
And not showing them the way.
Pretty much, yeah. It's like their last resort was to sexually assault her.
Yeah.
It's mind-boggling stuff.
Yeah, and for him, as a police officer with some sort of moral code within, he just doesn't understand why, because he also feels, which I can understand, that you're letting these two boys back out on the street who have committed this horrible crime, and what is stopping them? They basically got away with one of the most unimaginable crimes known to humankind and got off scot-free. No charges whatsoever. And what's going to happen next? What's going to happen? And he said, you're not the only nun in the world. You're not the only woman in the world.
Yeah.
What is stopping them from doing this again? Mm-hmm. You are the only person that can stop this. And she's just like, essentially you need to find God. Do you even believe in God? Which is tough.
Yeah. I mean, well, yeah. Lieutenant obviously does believe in God, even to the point where he does meet Jesus and calls him a rat fuck.
He does.
Yeah. He
does. That's a really, really long scene of sobbing. There's several in this film, and this is by far the longest.
Yeah.
It is. It's another really tough thing to watch.
Yeah. But I think, we've tried to, I guess, get across a sense of the flavor of this film. I think,
Ew.
Yeah, I guess.
Tastes like sweat.
It's kind of I thought, this film will be forever imprinted on the pantheons of, extreme cinema history. You know what I mean? It's up there with a bunch of, Lars von Trier movies. It's up there with, Takeshi Miike films and all the video nasties that you want to talk about. And, I mean, I watched this film and it reminds me a lot of like I said, Miike's stuff. It reminds me very specifically of his remake of Kinji Fukasaku's Graveyard of Honor, which kind of follows a very similar sort of style. It's very simplistic stylistically, I feel. Because a lot of the scenes are one shot. Yeah. You see a character traveling to this location, then it's pretty much just one shot, like a two shot. And I guess that's where personally I feel like, because the film never cuts away, it's always very barefaced. The film never cuts away or uses a cutaway to kind of get away from things. I feel like that's where a lot of the controversy kind of comes in, is that it feels like a lot of the drug use, because it drags on for quite a fair amount, looks instructional. Mm-hmm. And that's where a lot of, say, where the UK has the issue. And I feel like, well, in Ireland it's slightly different because of they have more issues with, say, the rape of the nun
than
anything else. And I don't know if that film is still banned or not in Ireland. I don't know if that film will ever be accepted by the Irish Film Board.
I would say not.
Probably not. You can understand that, but. Yeah, I guess, there are varying versions of this film. I think I was quite, for want of a better word, lucky that I have the 4:3 UK DVD version, which was the only version that was available to me, obviously, to buy. Mm-hmm. It's 96 or 97 minutes long. Yes. Pretty much, I think that's the uncut version. Yes. Other streamed versions or versions that we've found here in the US are 91 minutes. So stuff has been taken out for obvious reasons.
Right. And I think that's really interesting because Ferrara wanted this to be an NC-17, which I guess in the UK is an 18.
Okay. Yeah.
So but he specifically wanted this movie to be an NC-17 just so he wouldn't have to deal with any restrictions. He had a lot more freedom. He goes, I don't care. This is going to be an NC-17 because this is what I want my movie to be. I don't want to deal with it. Yeah. Because he knew what was going to happen. And
he wrote the goddamn script, or at least he says he did.
Yeah. I mean, it was definitely a co-writer situation. But the only reason that we have, at least in the United States, an R-rated version is because of the video rental world. Blockbusters, your Hollywood videos.
Yeah.
They did not carry NC-17 films. And it was just something with the companies themselves. So they requested, if they wanted this film to be available to rent for people in their stores, that they had to make an R-rated version. So Abel Ferrara had to make an R-rated version and cut out scenes, and he actually had to cut out so many scenes, and he had to go to the cutting room floor, essentially, and put in more scenes to make it a feature-length amount of time.
Right, okay.
For Blockbuster and Hollywood Video.
Yeah, so I don't know. I guess I'm thankful. I think the version we have is... Because that's the thing, I've never seen the film in widescreen, if it was shot widescreen. Oh. I've only seen it 4:3.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so I don't know how different the film is. Because it's very... You see it in 4:3, and again, you're watching a 4:3 format film on obviously a 16:9 TV, got the black borders on the side. Yeah. It's very much like you're looking through a small window. You know, so it always gives you that. It gives you kind of a sense of the isolationist and the kind of very constrictive sense of the world. Because like when he goes to see that drug dealer, I forgot to bring this up. Like the wallpaper, there's even wallpaper on the fucking door. Like it's the same wallpaper.
When he goes to see Zoe.
Yeah,
like that's his heroin dealer.
Yeah, that's some of the most claustrophobic stuff, I think, in the film. Because like a lot of it's characterized by the use of the shadows and things like that. That's a very kind of bright space. But like I'd immediately walk into a space like that, I'd be like, I need to leave because I can't fucking deal with it.
He shot a lot of the scenes, at least the shots of Harvey, very wide, just to kind of show that isolation that he had. So a lot of his shots is, you know, his nude scene, his nude shot, and you know, a lot of the scenes of him taking drugs, or when he was in Zoe's house with the wallpaper, he's kind of alone. Yeah. For a lot of it. I mean, she's there, but a lot of times she just steps away and you just see him alone, just constantly alone.
I like that stuff. Yeah, it all kind of makes sense. It really kind of gets that across. But like a lot of this, like a lot of the scenarios, a lot of the locations and things like that, nightmarish, absolutely nightmarish in how they look and how they are and what they're doing. Like I find that there's a massive amount of like the use of the production design and stuff to get across that tone that I think is very, very effective.
And you also have that very gritty New York, and the New York at the time was, as I mentioned before, going through an epidemic of like crack.
Yeah.
Crack exploded. Yeah. They were making jokes in the commentary about just going up to certain areas where they were filming, just stepping on bags of crack.
I mean, this is obviously...
Which I think was probably a joke.
Okay. I mean...
Maybe.
I guess, like, New York's has gone through quite a massive amount of change, but I'm trying to figure out, like, who it was that kind of came in, because I hear a lot about, like, Giuliani was the mayor of New York.
A lot of people say, like, these are pre-Giuliani days.
Okay.
So perhaps he's he's responsible for that.
That's what I read. That's what I hear. You know, he's primarily the reason why New York is cleaned up to
gentrified
the state it is now. Yeah, but I mean, like I think about like how New York's depicted in the 70s. I think about like Taxi Driver and stuff like that. Because this is my only interaction with that city is just how it is depicted in cinema. You know?
Fair enough.
Because you've got like that depiction, and then you've got like Once Upon a Time in America, where it's fucking beautiful, right? It just
fresh.
It looks amazing. Well, it's not fresh, but like there's a like the way that Sergio Leone is able to kind of look at a place like that, you know, and he puts that fucking Western edge on it. I would say there's plenty of filmmakers over the time that have created different visions of what New York is, because I feel like it's such an elaborate and colorful palette, say from like your Spike Lee to your Scorsese. Because
it's also a personal look at how you view the city and it's so large as well. So you have so many different boroughs and districts and areas.
It's a giant framework of culture.
So depending on what you use New York for, or what your experience is, then, that is available to you to have so many different perspectives on the city.
Yeah, no, I kind of feel like, yeah, there's varying degrees, you know, because I think like there's Panic in Needle Park and stuff like that. It's another movie as well. So, yeah, no, I like the palette at which the city brings so much kind of life and difference to these different depictions.
Yeah.
You know, because very much, this the way that it's depicted here, it feels very much like a hellscape. So, I mean, I quite appreciate that.
Yeah.
The way it is. This isn't Seinfeld.
Would you recommend this movie?
Yes, I would. Here's the thing, and I mean, I kind of did it to you just before we watched it as well, is like, brace yourself, because this might not be for you.
Yeah, I thought it was going to ruin my night, and so I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure how I wanted to watch it, what state of mind I needed to be in to watch it, and if
you're quite desensitized and you've watched a lot of cinema, and you can kind of separate yourself, like you can separate what's happening in the film from, say, real life, and not feel too kind of like subjected or like affected by it, then I'm like, you're probably fine with Bad Lieutenant. I think there's just a few things, like you just have to stomach some quite awful, horrible behavior.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But it's all part of like what this film's identity is. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like when he says he's like, when they call him a bad lieutenant, like he's bad. Like he's very bad. He's doing bad boy things. You know? And he's not a very good lieutenant. That's not what the film's called.
He's also not a good father. He's not a great person.
No. No,
I don't know if he has any friends either. Probably not a very good friend.
Probably doesn't need any friends the way he's kind of behaving. You know,
I'm sure he did at one point.
Like, I think at one point he thought Jesus was his friend, and Jesus let him down.
Ouch.
So
I also would recommend this movie. I was warned, as you've heard, and I'm surprised I hadn't seen it before. I think it's because I thought that I had, but I was wrong.
Yeah.
I was dead wrong. And I enjoyed it. I weirdly enjoyed it. It is uncomfortable. It is moving. I mean, just the fact that you really, really see Harvey Keitel just lay it all on the line, and it is hard to watch, but it's really quite intriguing. I mean, you're watching Harvey Keitel just give it everything he's got and more.
Yeah.
I mean, he must have been exhausted. I mean, he's really going for it in this movie, and it's wonderful.
Yeah.
It's really wonderful.
I would only say, like, and here's the main thing, I feel like the second half of the movie is worse because of how strong the first half hour is.
I won't lie to you. I fell asleep.
It's a bit sleepy.
I did fall asleep. Also because I warned Ryan, if we put something on after 9 p.m., I will fall asleep. And like clockwork, I did. But I also pushed to watch it. So that's on me.
Yeah.
That's on me. But I did fall asleep. It's very quiet. The end of the film is so quiet. And I don't know if that's because of the music rights issues and everything that happened with that.
Yeah. That's also something that comes on board when you talk about the different versions of this movie as well, is some of the song choices that weren't the problem of the movie itself, but ended up being problems that involved Led Zeppelin having to take people to court for using samples of their music.
They had unlicensed music that they put in the film, and Led Zeppelin got mad.
Unlicensed samples from Led Zeppelin in a song that was chosen by Abel Ferrara to use in the movie that they had to remove.
Sure.
That's the difference. I can't remember what it was called. But
Kashmir. It was from Kashmir.
So they wouldn't let him use Kashmir in that song,
Yeah.
but they let P. Diddy later on use Kashmir for the fucking Godzilla song?
Yes. Not even that long after, like within a couple years after. Better to ask forgiveness than permission.
I don't know. I think
which is wrong.
No, fuck
in this
that.
case.
No. And anyway, Led Zeppelin had already had a pretty strong track record of like taking people to court and fucking them over because they felt like their stolen material had been stolen.
Yeah. I wanted to give my film rating, which I might actually update after this conversation, which rarely happens. Rarely we upgrade. We almost always downgrade our ratings after watching the movies. But I gave it a 3.5 last night. And after talking about it, I think going up to a 4.
Okay.
Going up to a 4 for the film. And I'm going to do it right now. But yeah, I think the more that we talk about it, the more I actually like it.
The thing is, like, I mean, I like the fact that the film is quite stark, even though there isn't really much in the way of music. There is that one track, and I'm trying to remember what it was called. It's like, you've heard it before in like Scorsese movies and stuff like that. It's like Forever My Darling, I think it's called. I'm not too sure.
Okay.
It's like an old song, and it's kind of nice. Like, I mean, I quite like it because it helps to kind of set an underlier for like what you're seeing. Yeah. Very much a kind of juxtaposition, you know. And it's kind of, you know, you take the lyrics of the song and you're trying to be like, oh, how does this relate to the film and stuff like that. Anyway, but yeah, I do like its stark nature, and I think last night I was gonna give it a 3 because I was like, it was a little bit sleepy, and I was like, well, hold on. I'm like, you can't be this congratulatory of the movie, talking to it now, obviously in the hindsight, just giving it a little bit more time to breathe. Because I think the first time I saw this, fucking years ago, probably when I first bought the DVD, and now watching it now, and I'm like, you know what? Still probably deserves the 4. I don't think I can give it any more than 4.
No, I don't think so. Personally, I wouldn't either.
Because it's too front loaded. It's kind of imbalanced, I feel like, as a film in terms of its content, because a lot of the stuff that happens near the end, it's just a lot of shots behind Harvey Keitel walking in locations, and I'm like, okay, that's fine. And effectively ends up doing the same things where he's getting drugs from people in pretty much shots that mirror shots that have happened already.
True.
So it's kind of just like, okay, like, I understand what's happening here. You know, I wanted, maybe some of those scenes maybe should have been written slightly differently so it didn't feel so samey. But when you think about the powerhouse performance and like the way I feel about that dick shot as well, you know, to the point where I'm like, I want a fucking poster of it on the wall. I was like, what am I even thinking about? You know, and you think about, you know, moments in cinema and the things that you enjoy and stuff like that. You're like, oh fuck yeah, like, you know, things that kind of help characterize, you know, yourself as an artist, if that's who you are, or just someone who likes a certain tone or style of things. You know, I think it's quite important. So I would say, I say it does deserve a 4.
Great.
I think it's doing something that not a lot of other films can do effectively. So
especially, I can appreciate a film that will make me think more. I won't really stop thinking about it for a while. It really does stick with you. And when you ruminate on it a little bit more, it definitely deserves more. And I'm happy I gave it a 4.
Yeah.
What about the dick scene?
5.
Yeah, obviously. Okay, yeah. It's a 5.
Yeah.
It's definitely a 5. Like, I mean, you want to bring it down for context because he's actively sobbing, but it's so early days in the film, so it still needs that 5 as well.
Well, it's, again, I feel like this is this is a moment of the films, of the stuff that we are covering, that I'll be comparing other films to.
All right.
You know, I kind of feel like it's a bit more of a benchmark for me personally, and like this journey that we're undertaking. So that's kind of how I feel about that. And I'll always kind of I'll be more heavily on the context as opposed to, isn't it great? It's just there. I'll be like, tell me why it's there.
Fair enough.
You know?
I like a challenge.
Because I think that's a smarter, more common sense, analytical approach to this whole process. So that's kind of how I feel about it.
All right. Well, this is my podcast.
There's the candy.
And listen, we're going to do it how it needs to be done.
Oh, I'm terrified, Laura. Please don't look at me like that. Jeez Louise.
Is there anything that we missed? Anything in your notes that you wanted to talk about?
No, I don't have a lot of notes for the movie anyway. What a fantastic tale of self-destruction this was.
The only thing I wrote down I didn't mention is that they shot this in 20 days.
Yeah,
so it took less than 3 weeks to make this film, or to shoot it. So I like that.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Wham
yeah,
bam, thank you, ma'am.
It doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't feel like it needed that much to it, though. That's the thing. So I mean, it's like there you go, we're done in 20 days.
Yeah, that's great.
It's kind of like, I mean, it's Luc Besson wrote Leon the Professional in less than 2 weeks.
I love that movie.
Yeah,
I love it.
It can be done, people, if you know what you're doing. So,
well, thank you so much for being here with me today. As always, Ryan.
Yeah.
I appreciate you.
Yeah, this was a goodie, this one.
Yeah, I agree. Thanks again, guys. Make sure to follow us on the social medias, and we will see you next time. I've been Laura.
Ryan.
Thank you. And
right.
bye.
Bye.